All right, let's jump straight into things on that. 10:37 on the 19th of March. So coming into the last third of the month already. Jeez, we're sort of really sort of churning through this sort of stuff and that. Look, I'll start off with gold because this thing has just been a absolute beast, and as you can see, sort of like come the weekend, I was like, look, we may sort of shoot up. I thought this might have been a bit of a top here. Caught some nice shorts down here. Actually, sort of where was it the first time? I think I can't remember. Somewhere through this period here. So to caught the shorts, got some bank part, came back up here, sort of into drawdown, came back down here, closed a bunch out just to sort of protect the position because that was not what happened. As you can see, look, I was looking for some pullbacks. I thought this might have been a top here, but they've decided no, look, we're up at 3,000. We're not just going to take 3,000. We're going to grind it up. And that's what it was yesterday. It was just a straight grind. Like, it did not really look back from the open. Where's the open? About here through Tuesday. And sort of like had a little bit of a sell down at the end of Asia. But, yeah, I mean, as you can see, the buyers were just hungry for it. Every time it came down, shot straight back up. Put it on a smaller time frame, and you can see some of these sell downs where, and I mean, this was really the catalyst here, as we said, sort of, take out those highs, bang. These were the two directions I was looking for. So outside this box, if we could have got back down underneath here, targeting this break level down here, I still think this is going to be a crucial level. And I do think it'll get revisited. I'm very, as I covered yesterday, sort of like, going through 2000, mainly because that's when I was trading. And if you look at sort of historically on the chart back when gold went through 1000, it doesn't accept the price straight away. And I think 2000, it went up to, I think, 2075, 2060, 2075, that kind of far. And at the moment, as you can see, we're at 3030. Not even considering sort of what that would mean in terms of percentage, because obviously sort of it's 30 bucks and well, that one was 60 bucks, but this is of course 50% higher than 2000 when it's breaking through 3000 levels. So as a percentage terms, this thing could sort of still go up to sort of 70, 80, and still be the same sort of push through before it sort of comes back down. But regardless of that, I do think this is a level that, if they want to hold it above, this will be the level that's very crucial. So should price sort of come back down here, I don't think it'll stop here. I think that'll be when you sort of see this thing cruise through a little bit more. But for now, you can see this thing's very bullish. Let's update this fib very quickly. As you could see 2 seconds ago, though, the pullbacks there were, they weren't even coming to the 23% as it was here. So of course, this was the highs that are coming into the end of last week. Coming back down here, we've got a pullback to 23%. This is of course of just this breakout move, moving up through here. So you can tell that this still had room to move. Like, this is the thing. Sort of like, fibs can be used, in a number of different ways. It can be used over large sort of moves, of course. Grab the very bottom, grab the very top, this kind of stuff. But certainly when you're looking in the context of this breakout move, and this is the big sort of setup that we were saying, look, once this bit broke here, this is a very bullish sort of setup, this deeper, 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 and if it comes through, bang. I mean, look at our first little price targets. So they're a pipe dream. That's, what are we talking? That's almost $100 ago now. So, yeah, sort of, what we're sort of saying, sort of like that, the fact that through just this one move, it only came back to the 23% buyers who are keeping it, holding it, holding it, holding it. Very bullish sign that once we came through, bang, we would get this move. And that's exactly what we got. We got to sort of just cruising up to the top side here. So now we've got to sort of think, okay, and I could just before I delete this one, this is that last little sell down. If that's any sort of relevance, that shows how strong that is. Buyers are definitely hungry for this. So, is it going to keep going? Is it going to chill out for a little bit? Look, I do think we are probably due for maybe a little bit of a cool day. We've got FOMC tonight, kind of tomorrow morning, to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or something like this. What time is it now, actually? Because we're in that sort of grey period where we've got half index. We've got BOJ today. That's great. I'll get to all the stuff. 5 a.m. So 5 a.m. and that, we've got the expectation is just a hold, but I'll get to that when sort of covering DXY. But with in terms of gold, look, you can see obviously here was the breakout, a little bit of a back test, and then just ripped, and it was kind of pulling back, but each time pulled back, bang, new high, pulled back, unable to sort of get through this zone. So we can say that this is a fair little cap for it at the moment, where the market has sort of rejected 1, 2, 3 times from this zone here. If we put up a little sort of bit of a rise and support here, or even if we grab one from down here, these are probably some levels that you probably want to sort of be paying attention to in terms of just momentum, because obviously here's your main trend, and it's just pulled away, hasn't even sort of touched here. So that's why sort of like breaking this little triangle here. Okay, yeah, it's that sort of early part of the morning. I wouldn't really put a great deal of sort of emphasis on it. Start to build some levels where we could sort of say, okay, where are we seeing a little bit more? Down under 7. I think, this is probably underneath here is where you're kind of sort of going to see a bit of a deeper move back. But for now, this thing is obviously very bullish. If it comes back and sort of reacts off this line here, I disregard this little one. Look, this is kind of sort of, a little bit of a sort of boom. It's just that we've had 3 touches into this level. Lower high, well, I mean, I guess it kind of came up to the top over here. But it just, as you can see, like the direction of this thing is obviously moving up here, but now it's starting to go sideways. So really, this is just sort of consolidating the highs. So this could obviously still, in this point, sort of pull back and then go off from here. This could just be a little bit of a consolidation, a bit of a breather, and then on its way. So we'll see how this sort of plays out coming through Asia. I think if anything is having a little bit of a sort of breather at the moment, we are seeing a couple of other metals push up a little bit. We've got DXY really on its knees at the moment, so could not sort of catch a break in that yesterday. But so look, I think sort of underneath 26, you're looking at 20. It did have some sharp sort of sell downs over here. I was watching this actually just sort of briefly last night, and it's sort of like, it was dropping sort of 38. 38 down to 26, then bounced up and then took out things, so it came 24. So, $16 drop-offs in that quick succession. You are starting to see people sort of taking profits through these areas, and maybe they're milking it kind of up over here. But I think this is sort of the area that you want to sort of be watching at the moment between, let's get up to 38 and, put it down over here at 26. I think this will be the little direction box that we'll see whether this is just a stall sideways and we see continuation, or whether this is something where we might get a bit of a pullback. And look, pullback, at this stage doesn't mean, complete over with the show. You can then sort of like, if this does come, say that, okay, this were to be your leg of the move, where might it sort of come back? If we sort of bounce and rally from this period over here in the 38, well, as we know, sort of 38% retracement, that's still a bullish momentum. With this complete move. So it's just a breather, shake out, take out some technical stops, hit the sort of areas where we've seen buyers come in previously, 38. So as I said, bullish continuation level, and then it could just be on its way. As I said, 3100 isn't out of the cards. Off the cards in terms of where this could sort of settle before I think we see a bit of a deeper sort of correction. Given everything that's going on at the moment, I mean, we had a couple of things overnight. We had Trump and Putin having a sort of conversation, and apparently, look, they made headway. You could see that this has not really affected the market, or at least has not affected the gold market whatsoever. I really think the market has just grown, and I've said this for a while, but more in relation to the Gaza kind of sort of stuff. The market's just grown weary of reacting to it. It's just these things sort of really sort of move markets a lot at the start, but after a while they become immune to it. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. So they had that kind of conversation. In theory, that would have seen a bearish sort of move on gold should it sort of be actually paying attention to it. It has not, as you can see. So, I don't think that's really had any bearing on it at all. Likewise, I just saw some report earlier of Israel just killed the head of Hamas something. I don't know. The point being is that, breaking news headed, like, they broke the ceasefire, or there's a month-long ceasefire, and now they've sort of started bombing each other again. This could be something that's keeping gold a little bit more sort of elevated and buoyant. But again, sort of that headline cracks, and it's like, wow, this guy's just sort of killed the head of. Let me find what it was. All right, so that. Yeah, Israel kills head of Hamas government in Gaza Strip. I mean, like, you'd sort of think this is a fairly sort of significant sort of development kind of thing with it all. But again, look, this 39 minutes ago, and metals have not moved at all. This is not sort of like, oh my God, wow, boom, escalation, so let's pump up the gold. So to me, it just sort of shows that these headlines come out, the market doesn't really care so much. I mean, I don't know what time that sort of Putin call with Trump sort of finished. I'm sure it was in the early hours of the morning, so around this area over here. But again, that's a peace sort of development kind of thing. Hasn't really affected the market a great deal as well. So I don't believe those war things are really what we're looking at to sort of drive the market at the moment. So being with that, we've got FOMC coming up. Expectation is a hold. Look, that might sort of give US dollar some sort of saving grace. Look, if it does sort of hold US dollar up a little bit, that could sort of weigh on sort of gold. And basically, what I mean, gold's just screaming at the moment. I mean, you can see every one of these pullbacks just got smashed up. Boom, smashed up. It's like, okay, here we go. No, it's not. Here we go. No, it's not. And just goes up, 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 up. And this is why you wait for these kind of levels to sort of confirm. Look, 23%, we've seen buyers equivalent to this level as well. So confluence here, we've got the 38, which is basically right on the money here at 30.17. And this is just of this one move, of course. But, there's confluences all the way through here. So I don't think this is necessarily like top with it all. But I think just given how big and strong this move has been, I think it's going to start to see a couple of these sell downs, even if it's just to snap out some long positions. I think some of these sell downs are going to come up. People have been buying dips crazy, buying dips crazy. Eventually, they're going to pull it down here. People will buy the dips. They'll put their stops underneath, and then they'll just go half up, and then bang, and they'll crash it back down through there. So I think that's more the kind of risk of things to sort of see, but that is just a sort of little interim trade. I don't think we've got the very top, but like I don't see anything that's changed necessarily that's about to sort of say, wow, okay, that's it. Gold's over. I mean, even I was looking at some news article yesterday. The guy was talking from one of the sort of bullion banks or whatever it was in Australia, and he's like, "Oh, look, demand is just crazy." And yes, okay, this is just a sort of little bullion bank or whatever it is, but that just goes to show what it's like. Like they're having record months, so it's not just sort of yeah. I mean, central banks buying this stuff up is like obviously the big ticket stuff. You can't compete with that, but it's on all levels, is what I'm saying. It's the bullion banks and shit. It's I mean, sort of, maybe Joe Sixpack and his gold stash in his little closet or whatever. But it's the big banks and this kind of stuff as well. So I think the demand is definitely there, and while the demand is definitely still there, it's going to keep it elevated. So I don't see any sort of major pullbacks anytime soon. But in saying that, because we are so high, you don't need a massive percentage drop to get quite a large dollar term, buck term move. So, if we're at the top up here, say it shakes this and say it comes back down towards, 29.30, like that's a massive, it's a dollar drop off. It's a 3% drop. You know what I mean? If you've traded gold, you're not sort of going, oh wow, I've never seen a 3% drop before. I mean, we've seen 6, 8%, remember? We've seen some of these things previously, and this is just a little bit of fun in that. But if you drag out what 8% would be, that gives you, this is 8.5, $255. Yeah, we've definitely seen moves that are pulled back like this. Not obviously not in one go, but we've seen pullbacks like this previously. So these things aren't unheard of, and let's be more realistic and drag it back to where we might think you might see something. But say you come back to this level, that's only 1.76% drop, $53. I mean, that's not nothing, but it's enough that you can definitely make some money off. Anyway, look, point being is that's all sort of fun to sort of theorize. But I do think that we could see some little bits of pullback over here. I think this is the perfect time for people to be so bullish. It just keeps up. Yesterday was just grinding, 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 grinding. I think this is a perfect occasion for people to sort of like drop it down. People buy the dips and then they just drop it again. So I do see probably a move back towards 3,000. 3,000 to 29.85, this kind of area over here, and then sort of see what happens as it gets back into this kind of congestion zone. I think there's more of a risk of that, or maybe not that deep, but there's more of a risk, there's more of a chance of a pullback to then go higher than there is to just explode up and have another big bullish day. But we'll see, underneath 30.27, above 30.27, you've got to get used to saying these numbers, and above 30.37 are definitely the levels that I'm looking for through this session. All right, and we've got silver. So silver's, as I said yesterday, sort of, we see this pullback, pullback, pullback. Generally has a nice sort of solid straight line. This thing's all over the shop. It doesn't know where it wants to sell down from. We have seen this sort of level be a bit of a reoccurrence now, so we can work off this. Once we sort of see this stuff sort of like start to, what's going on here? Excuse me. Well, get off the 30-minute time frame anyway. Look, once we can see these levels start to sort of be respected time and time again, that's fine, because it just means we can trade off these levels because we know this is a significant level. And I think this is important as well. Pick out these significant levels and say, look, this is where the sellers were. They're trying to hold this now as buyers. Should this fail at this level underneath sort of 30.85, I think that's the time that we see a little bit of a sort of medium-term top, and I think we sort of start to look a little bit lower. I'd be surprised if this level holds, this little falling resistance holds again. This thing's a little bit choppy for me, but I'm not a big fan. These megaphone patterns, to me, are almost the same as diamond tops. I think they're a pretty poor indicator. But let's see how it sort of goes from up here. But certainly, I think underneath 33.80s, I think you're at least minimal looking down to 33.60s, and then sort of underneath there, I think you're probably looking to maybe undo this larger move. So I'd probably be looking around 33. Should we sort of get underneath and close around that sort of 33.50? So I'll put a little alert here. So first things first, underneath this 80s level here, as you can see, obviously they've tried to hold it. Should we sort of fail underneath here, I think we could see that sort of move accelerate down to the 50s. 50s is where you want to sort of see it get down back underneath. Put a little support down here. Should we see a close under here, then I'd be targeting pretty much body fill, so around that 33 level, just down over here. Again, these are price level targets, they're not time targets, so who knows how long it'll take to sort of get here. But I mean, these things are just incredibly sort of like bullish, but it's not like we haven't seen these deep pullbacks before. So see if this sort of comes down, see if this falling falling support can sort of hold it as well, sort of moving through the rest of the week. All right, flip along. We got Aussie. So Aussie caught the short side on this one yesterday, twice actually. Sort of caught it, as we were sort of breaking through this level here. Took profit on this half of the stuff down here, back up here, added to it, and then caught this move down here. So it worked out okay, but as we could see, sort of like these moves. I'm not built for this sort of stuff where it goes back up and then you just give back all your sort of gain and give back. And then of course, the second move, that was a bigger one. So it did work out quite well. Overall, we are seeing exactly where we kind of thought the buyers were going to sort of come in. Actually, to the cent here, as you can see, we had two levels. We thought sort of, look, if this level here, 43, broke, be looking down into the sort of 30 level. I still think this is probably a possibility. I still think that this, at the moment, just looks like a bit of a support, resistance, tackle, support, and then breakthrough. And I think that'll come down to this level over here. But this is the important thing about doing these sort of charts and that, and writing these things out each day, because sometimes you get them right, sometimes you get them wrong, like 100%. I mean, like, as I said, I had the possibility of sort of gold going higher, but I didn't trade it, and so in which I sort of missed a very strong grind to the top side there. But then you have these sort of moves here with Aussie, bang, and this came in. This is where we sort of isolated, and we said the sellers were going, the buyers were going to step back in. This is where they was. Body fill of this large move. These are great targets, these body fills. So came back down here, clipped into this level here, as you can see, around 43, bounce up to 64, so 20-point bounce. It's just moving up here. It's really just holding at this level here. So we can just grab this and sort of drag it along there. Break above here. You still have the bottom side of this stuff over here at 66. So I'd probably want to see above 70 to sort of see this thing back into it. I think there's more of a risk of this just being a bit of a bounce up and then a rollover and push back down. We're seeing equity sort of come off a little bit. Again, after hitting that 5,700 price target, I think this weighs on stuff. We got FOMC coming up tomorrow morning. I think that there should be a little green one as well for what it's worth. Oof. FOMC coming, looking to hold. DXY, they are hammering it, and it is just holding that support area. So I think we see a little bit of a push up on DXY. I think we see Aussie come down and test these levels over here. So look, what are we looking at next for 63.28? Around that 50% sort of retracement. Possibly even sort of come back down to the 61%. And this is what I was saying yesterday, sort of like, when you're charging up like this, particularly when you're trading Aussie, you think, wow, it's going so bullish. You forget, market's favorite pastime is to sell Aussie. So, if this starts to sort of catch on, there's a good chance that this one actually comes down a little bit deeper, down to the 61%, which is, confluence of the top side retest of this big structure that we had that sort of big breakout from. So should have come back down here, takes out that sort of breakout point, which we say sort of that's what Aussie loves to do. It sort of will come down deeper, snap out all those sort of people that didn't take profit through this port and put the stops to even and thought, I'm going to trade this to 70 cents. Well, good on you. Now you stopped out. So it does like to do this kind of stuff. So, I think sort of down, 63.15, I think is probably the level where you probably feel a little bit safer, particularly once it sort of comes through 63.40. So let's put this down here. Okay. 63.15. I mean, look, this is negated above 70, but I think at the moment, that's more the likelihood that we see another leg down. This isn't really like a boom, retest here, come down here, and then sort of move back up like this. It could. I mean, look, anything's possible. It's coming off the 38%. There was the bounce there. Should they decide to sort of just grind this up here, I mean, that's continuation levels. But certainly, I think, now that we're in this sort of questionable position, I think sort of, you got to see what happens when it comes back down and tests this 40 level. And I think the sort of the momentum coming down here could probably see another leg or so down, to 63.30 to 63.15 is kind of an area in which I'd sort of like to see what happens with the market there. Excuse me. All right, so let's get along to DXY. And this is what I'm saying. They are bashing it and bashing it and bashing it. Look at these recoveries through here and recovery. Like it's just refusing to break this level. And this is what I was saying the other day that, I mean, we won't sort of see this break till you have the catalyst of, say, FOMC. If it's going to break, say they do a surprise cut, that's going to break it. If they hold it, you'll probably see this price and move up a little bit sort of for it. It doesn't mean that, okay, yeah, they're going to be sort of, all of a sudden let's buy US dollar. Like that's not the case. I mean, this was a little head and shoulders I was trying to trade. Bang, this is negated. It's back down here, so we could get rid of this now. This is not the head and shoulders that we thought we were going to be trading. If anything, look, price target could probably actually stay the same because the neckline is the same as what we'd be looking there. If you get, I mean, it's a long way off here, but should this somehow catch a bid and carry up and come to this 104 level, 104.75 is still the price target. So let's pull that back there. Bang. And this price target is based off the idea that this is now playing as a range. It needs to get back up to 104 and move out there, but the price target is still the same in the sense of this was, yes, potential head and shoulders. It wasn't a head and shoulders. Buyers have not been sort of keen enough to drive this up early. They've left it back down here to these lower level of buyers. So this is definitely your line in the sand. But should this somehow find the fanboys and what it needs to sort of move up to the top side here, and we get a breakthrough 104, 104.75 is a great level to sort of target to start selling this thing back down again. Because if we sort of drag this up, that's still under the 38%, which is very much. And this is what I've said a number of times with these sort of things. If you want to sell this thing and you want to sell it down, and we're going to 101 in my opinion, we're just really consolidating the bottom here. It's a lot better to sell it from here to go down here because the move from here to here is a lot better than it is from here to here. So, where's the pain trade? How crowded is this US dollar sell-off? That can they sort of move it up here, take out all these highs over here, still keep it with that bearish momentum, suck in a few sort of longs, stop out some shorts, and then drive it down. So I'm still in the camp of we could see a bit of a US dollar rally. I think this is, look, if this thing falls, then definitely we're going to 101. I mean, look, that's the level. And I do think that this will go to 101, but I'm open to the idea that this thing could sort of rally up, squeeze up a couple of people first, and then dump down. And remember, if this thing does decide to move like that, every time it's going to get like this, it's going to look like it's falling over, and it's just going to jam up a bit higher. Looks like it falls over, jams up a bit higher. That's how US dollar rallies. And if we see this, we're going to see Aussie take a bit of a bath. We'll see sort of probably metals come back a little bit as well, because this is where people are going to start doing. You'll see the headlines that will start to pop up, and there'll be all these things that sort of really support the idea that US dollar is coming back, till it's not, until we sort of hit those levels, and then we start to see it selling again. And it turns out all those headlines were fake. But yeah, look, this is forward planning with it all, and certainly if we go underneath 103. Well, 101's the target, as I've been calling since, where was it? I don't know, somewhere 108s or something like this. It was pretty high up. It was sort of end of January. So a couple of months I said it was going to take, and look, it's taking a couple of months. So as I said, my price targets are price levels, not time. I don't really calculate sort of like length of cycles of buys and all this kind of sort of jazz with it all. But I am open to the idea that this could potentially turn into a range. We could see a measured move out to 104.75, and then we could see a sell down from there. So it's just something to keep in the back pocket for now. And copper cruising up. So we are still inside its little channel. I thought this might have been a pull away and a bit of a fail of this channel coming through here, but as you can see, we're starting to move up and these highs over here, these highs there. It's rejecting as I said, it comes out here. Again, look, this is why I sort of think that metals could be in for a little bit of a cooling off for that, because they will vaguely all tend to sort of move together. If we drag this out here a little bit here, we can see this is very much pinching. It's in the middle of a channel. So this thing's either going to scream up to the top here, and we're going to sort of be hitting a confluence of all-time highs, top of the channel, or this is just going to go and come back down here. We are seeing this last little move here, though, coming in a little bit weak. on the buying pressure. So if we drag these ones out here, and we take these highs here, and we take those highs there, we are seeing this sort of thing come out a little bit on the weak side. So it does lean to the idea that we could be seeing a little bit of a pinch and a pullback. Look, it doesn't mean that it's an all-time top or medium-term top or whatever like this, but it does mean that we could be seeing due for a little bit of a pullback because, you know, it's moving up, it's just question, sell down, jams up higher. It's quiet around this time anyway, but should this thing sort of start to break down a little bit lower, this level is what you want to look for. So if it comes back to hit this bottom side of the channel before it hits the top side of the channel, I would call this the actual sort of pull away, and we could see this thing roll, and I would say that this is probably going to pull back. 488, that's your target, your first target, because obviously this is where buyers have sort of launched it up here. It was also the resistance. If we drag it all the way back over there, on too lower time frame to be bothered going all the way back there, we could see this is a significant level as well. So look, it doesn't mean that it's over with it all, but I could see this sort of thing, you know, pulling back 2% or so, back down to this sort of 488 level. Should we start to see a little bit of a sort of cooling on metals across the board? US dollar running up a little bit higher. This will come in line with Aussie coming down a little bit lower as well. And USD1, we are seeing this thing dribble. It's really pinching towards the bottom here, isn't it? Get this one off. Take the air off. Boom. So we are seeing this thing sort of like really sort of just tighten up. This is almost, I suppose you'd have to take those lows there and there, wouldn't you? Almost a little bit wedgy. Like it's a little bit tighter down this end, obviously, than it was with these kind of moves up over here. Again, I'm still open to the idea of this before we go down. Whoops. A bit of a move up. I think everything's sort of lining up, sort of it's on its support, it's ready to go. Look, all this stuff could just go bang, and it could, yeah, we could have FOMC, they come out, they hold, but it's a dovish hold, and things just sort of crumble and fall apart and US dollar breaks. But this level here is going to break at the same time that DXY breaks, so in my opinion. So we'll see how this one marks out. But point being is that I'm open to the idea of so many people looking at this support, we tested under it, we've come up, it's dribbling back down towards it. I think one last hurrah before breaking down is the play. But as I said, price target 10, well, so 10, sorry, that's that dyslexia kicking in, 704. So, you know, will this thing sort of just go down peacefully? Well, you know, if you trade anything, you know, generally things don't. When it looks so obvious that it's about to just fall off the edge, generally you get a push up and then it snaps out all these people. No one knows what's going on. Hold on, wait, I thought it was going up. I thought the one was sort of coming down. I thought US dollar was cooked. Why is it going up? Okay, let's all get long. They drag them in and then they sort of grab those people and then smash them down. So again, Aussie, gold, these kind of things pulling back. This will happen the same time that we see yuan moving up here, or US dollar against the yuan moving up, a weakening of the yuan. DXY sort of pushing up, trap in a few people, and then jam down. So I think that's sort of pretty much where the risk is at the moment to sort of come through this fall in resistance. Let's put an alert on this one as well. For a breakthrough there. All right, finally, just a bit of gold-silver ratio because this is what I was covering the other day. I put a post on X saying that, look, yeah, we know that this is a strong area. You can see how many times the market has respected this thing. So we know that this is a level where it was going to sort of see some issues. This is what sort of made it a little bit tough for silver to get and maintain a breakout to the upside. And as you can see, it's drifting back up. This big sort of like thing, and this is a good example of these kind of things because negative divergences don't need to be these big glaring moves like this where it's wow, there's a big sort of negative divergence. But if they're coming back to that same level, but you're still seeing the RSI pushing up, you can still see this react in the same way. The reaction may not be as strong. So if we have a move like this, the reaction, sorry, with the like sort of stronger percentage, like sort of degree, sorry, stronger degree differences, the reaction could be equivalent to that, or sort of like proportionate, sorry, to that. But as we can see here, basically failed to get through here while the buyers were still sort of, the buying pressure was still moving up, and subsequently we've seen this thing grind and drift up a little bit higher. It is getting a little bit sort of oversold, overbought up around this area here, so it could very much sort of roll over, come back down. But I think again, sort of potentially a little bit of a grind up before we sort of come down. The area that I'm really interested in is this big sort of rising support. I think that's due for a touch up, but again, open to the idea of these things bang and then sort of coming back down here a little bit. So we'll see how I go with that. Okay, and finally just go through the data a little bit here. So we got BOJ coming out today. Expectation is there to hold again. So these ones are always fun because they just drop whenever. So, times are a little bit all over the place at the moment, but generally sort of it's around 1 o'clock. It's funny, sort of people say, out of 7 out of the last 10 have come between 12:45 and 1:15, or some these sort of cutesy sort of little things. Interesting enough, whatever. We'll see how that happens. Look, really, it comes down to sort of how do they sort of present the hold? Are they presenting it in a hawkish sort of manner, or are they presenting it in a sort of bit more of a more lenient, dovishy kind of sort of tone with it all? So that'll be interesting to sort of see how that sort of comes out. I think any sort of strengthening in the yen, obviously, is again going to sort of weigh on US dollar. But the market was really pushing towards the idea of these guys hiking. Now that they're looking to hold, you might see a little bit of that yen strength dissipate. And that yen strength, as it dissipates, is probably going to go along towards US dollar, while they're sort of waiting to see what the Fed have to sort of say. So yeah, again, look, it doesn't mean that these moves are finished. It just means you're seeing the flow of capital go from one lot to the next headline, potential mover. And then, we'll see these things move back and forth again. So again, they don't even tell you when the press conference is. Maybe it's half an hour after, whenever it actually drops. So we'll wait to sort of see what happens with the market there. Through the rest of the night, we got CPI Euro CPI. Why is this such a low ticket one for these people? Look, expectation is pretty flat, maybe a small tick down for year on year. We did have CAD overnight as well, and as you can see, just to sort of get an idea of the theme of all all the sort of central banks around the world, but they saw this sort of tick up a little bit here as well. So I'm not sure how the sort of CAD kind of reacted to that. Let's have a quick look. I don't know if I've got USD CAD on here. Yep. What time is this? So 1 o'clock. 11:30. Slow down and then vague sort of push up off it all, but nothing major with it all. As I said, recession fears are kind of more the talking point than inflation, until inflation sort of gets out of hand for the time being. Tick along, as I said, 5 a.m. That's the big one. We got the Fed coming out. Look, expectations, they're probably going to be on the money, and that they'll sort of hold with this. So 5:30, the press conference, see what he's got to say and see sort of how the market sort of takes that move. And then that's pretty much it. We've got a bit of data. We've got employment changes for Aussie tomorrow again. So let's see how close I get. As I said, they've kicked up their thing above 20,000 this time. So maybe that's an indicator that they might going to be a little bit closer. All right, that's it from me.